Here are the top 10 things I learned about the impacts of gentrification for African Americans. Before I begin, I want to preface that gentrification is not black or white, good or bad. There are many factors to consider when discussing this topic. I feel it comes to two important considerations. Do we care more about the feeling of shared community and culture among African Americans, or the socioeconomic status of their neighborhoods? The definition of gentrification varies in that some focus on the negative impacts, whereas others focus on the renewal or revitalization of the communities. Since every situation is so different and so complex, it's important to not include biases in the definition. To explain the complexity, I'll use an example I was given from Brooklyn's gentrification. In Black Brooklyn, the majority of the neighborhoods are becoming predominantly white. Interestingly enough, whites moving to these neighborhoods has hardly helped patterns of segregation. Studies show that gentrification results vary drastically from one community to another. This shows that gentrification is not as simple or effective as initially thought. As a basic definition, gentrification is the influx of predominantly white and educated individuals into predominantly black and poor neighborhoods. The reason many feel it is important is because segregation is not necessarily bad if there is exposure to multiple wealth classes, but this has not been the case, and many with the same socioeconomic status concentrate together. Surprisingly enough, there is also evidence showing there are economic benefits of both segregated and non-segregated communities. Different exposures and role models influence each of these scenarios. Another factor to consider with gentrification is many choose to live within their own culture for racial solidarity, allowing them to share a common culture and community. Gentrification robs them of this choice. Contrary to the last point, statistics have proven that whites in poverty have more opportunities than African Americans in poverty. This is why many feel gentrification is necessary. A really controversial part of gentrification is the displacement of the current residents. By making a poor community have a sudden increase in the standard of living, it makes the current residents unable to upkeep the cost of living, which forces them to leave. There are three general categories for why gentrification occurs. The first two are a result of supply and demand, whereas the other cause is due to public policy. There are three different groups that are impacted by gentrification: those who leave gentrified neighborhoods, those who now live in gentrified neighborhoods, and other residents. Each group has their own circumstances when gentrified. And lastly, I'd like to share the specific health outcomes mentioned by the CDC on this subject. They say that gentrification causes issues in finding affordable, healthy housing, access to healthy food, healthcare, recreation, social networks, and quality schools. By changing the day-to-day functionality on current residents, they can be impacted by increased stress and altered mental health states, as well as violence and crime.